Hey guys, so I wanted to talk a little bit about suffering and how it can help us grow. Now, this isn't really anything new or insightful in terms of self-help and the self-help community, but what I want to talk about specifically is, excuse me, what I want to talk about specifically is how not only can you use suffering to help grow yourself and improve yourself and learn and become more wiser, but you can also remember that suffering is there for a reason, like it's trying to tell you something. There are messages inside the suffering. So you need to understand that suffering isn't a pointless thing. It's not there just to make you feel bad or to punish you or any other reason that is just to make you suffer. So when you're suffering, this might be quite hard, but try to do when you are suffering at some point in your life, which most of us will suffer. I would like you to really think about what messages your brain is trying to tell you, because you are feeling pain for a reason. Like, if you feel pain physically, then that is because part of your body isn't functioning at 100% capacity, and it's a message that your brain is trying to tell you that something is wrong and that you should try and fix it. Um, and sometimes, especially with physical pain, you can feel pain and know why it's there and know what's wrong and know rationally that it's not really a huge issue, a huge problem. And that can be annoying, and that's why we have painkillers. But um, yeah, usually in most cases, if you're in pain, you will feel pain. It will feel bad. It sometimes might feel like agony. And yeah, you should try and listen to the messages that your suffering is trying to tell you. It's not there for no reason. So I'm more focused on mental pain, psychological and emotional pain, which is, um, I guess it's harder to solve in most cases, especially because right now in the 21st century, we're more focused on what we can really see and understand. So if we have a cut on our finger, then it's easy. All we have to do is grab a plaster. Whereas if we have trauma in our past, it's much more complicated to solve. And unfortunately, most systems in the world aren't very interested in solving the mental health crisis, um, which is really unfortunate. And I would really hope that would change, at least in my lifetime, that we'd pay more attention to mental health and how it affects not just ourselves but other people, how an absence of proper mental health can create criminals and crime and corruption and suffering, and it can affect your friends, your family, your social circles, like all sorts of things. So mental health is super important. Um, so when you're suffering, let's say emotionally, let's say you've had a breakup, um, you're suffering, and what most people might do or think is they might think they wish they never met that person, or that they were stupid to have fallen for that person, or they wish they had no more emotions anymore. Like they've had enough of just having emotions in general. Like it's too much for them. And while it's really easy for me to say when I'm not in that state, or if anyone's not in that state at the moment, I know how hard it is to think rationally when you're in an emotionally unhealthy state, or even if you're like really in love or really attached to someone or something emotionally, it's hard to think rationally. Um, so yeah, when you're suffering emotionally, for example, um, I would like you to just really try hard and think, why am I suffering? Um, what is the reason for me suffering? Is it affecting my survival? And when I say survival, I'm not just talking about physical survival, I'm talking about social survival of the ego. So the reason why breakups are so hard is because we are wired to highly value um, intimate relationships, and when we are deprived of having a stable relationship, then our brain makes us suffer for that, because our brain is concerned that we need to be in a relationship in order to survive emotionally and procreate. Now, I'm not saying that we all need to reproduce or end up in a relationship, but that's what we have evolved to need in a psychological sense. So that's an example for why we suffer in like breakups and in relationships. So if you understand the nuances of the messages of why you are suffering, then that might help, and that might also help you to accept suffering in general and stop trying to stop it, because it's there for a reason. It's not some pointless thing that evolution or your religion invented or created, and it was wrong and you think you know any better. Like if we never suffered, then we wouldn't try to change anything. So if you're suffering right now, emotionally or psychologically, it means the circumstances you are in right now need to be changed or improved upon. So if you're regularly suffering, that's not to say you're suffering every moment for your whole entire life. So what I would suggest to you to do is, when you're not suffering, you need to think about exactly why you're suffering, what moments are happening while you are suffering, Um, what triggers do you have while you are suffering? And how can you change your lifestyle? Like, what are you missing in your lifestyle that is causing you to not be happy in your life? So, some things I would suggest is to look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs and to start from the bottom, um, and work your way up to the top, effectively checking off which things you have in your life, if they are stable or not. And if you've checked those off, then it's worth looking on other online sources to see what other things you are missing. Um, Eventually, I would like to make a checklist sort of thing that you can just look on and see that you have all the options in the checklist. Um, and if you haven't, then there will be certain options you can take for each thing you are missing, and like all sorts of exercises. Like, it's a huge long-term thing that I would like to make in the future. Um, Although it might take me a long time to make because I'll need to do a lot of research and um, yeah, a lot of research and a lot of like thought into it to make sure it really works. But yeah, hopefully that will happen in the future. It might take me like 5 or 10 years to make, but yeah, that's something I'm really looking forward to. Um, yeah, so look for the messages, stop seeing suffering as pointless, stop wishing it away, use it as motivation. Like, it's similar to how your parents were probably quite maybe strict, maybe shouting a lot, maybe even insult you, and they were trying to motivate you into operating through life the right way. They weren't just trying to make you suffer. And while you're a kid, you think they're just jerks who are just trying to make you miserable and trying to contain you. And then usually you grow out of that and you realize that all they were trying to do is to make you become the best self that you can be, or at least according to their standards, which isn't which won't always necessarily have your interests or your personality type um, in mind. Yeah, that's about it for today's video. You can like and subscribe, share, comment, anything you want to do in order to support my channel and my content and what I'm trying to do, which is to get other people to self improve and just enjoy their life, basically. Um, yeah, hope you have an awesome day and an amazing life.